Still Clare with Shannon and Wilson, and I guess this is about 30 years in the industry. Well, my dad was a radar engineer at Boeing, and Boeing Defense, and there was no take your kid to work day. It was very classified, very secretive. There was a project in the neighborhood that was a stream restoration project, and my dad and I were also very engaged with Boy Scouts and being outside, and so I felt like this was a project where I could be outside. And so that got me into interest in being a civil engineer, and then a geotech engineer, and then luckily I got thrown into the tunneling business just by chance, and I've been underground since. So I was working for a small company. They were reached out by another larger company to find someone that could help out with the instrumentation on a tunnel project. So that got me working on them. I was seconded to this larger company, kept going, and then I got hired on by the larger company, and then just going from one tunnel project to the other. And I timed it right. In the Seattle area where I'm from, CSO projects were just starting up with consent decrees, and then transit projects were kicking off with Sound Transit, and then the Alaskan Way project. So I really started out in the wastewater side of things, and then migrated to transit and road tunnel, but still very diverse. I'm so lucky. Brightwater was an international award-winning project, very challenging, had a very high-performing team which made it successful, and I thought, okay, that's a career-defining project. And then I got to work on the Alaskan Way Viaduct project in Seattle, and that was amazing. And my interview with the WashDOT guy was, do you like potlucks? I mean, it was like a match with all these people. We had really high-performing team of people, and certainly very challenging. But in my role, I was the person that they really tasked to explain tunnels to others and to lay people, to elected individuals, to the city council and such. And so I got involved in a lot of the tours, and we were giving tours to blind people, to disabled people, to school groups, to old, to young, to elected people, to international tourists. And I really enjoyed that and found great value in that. People tend to have a pretty short-term memory, or they're really focused on cost. And of course, tunnels and infrastructure tend to be high cost, but they're also very safe and very lasting. So I really tried to convey that to them, because there's a lot of concerns, particularly in Seattle and the Northwest, about being underground in an earthquake. And I really tried to say how much safer it is being underground than above ground. You're protected from the weather, and therefore you have infrastructure that lasts for generations. We have bridges that just don't even last for 50 years. That's what I really tried to convey, is that lasting legacy for infrastructure. And then they start to see the value in that. Well, I think what I want to share is about my daughter's third grade class. On Alaskan Way, we were giving tours, and all the school groups, we were just kind of confining them to this information center. They'd see the model of the TBM and some pictures and exhibits, and it's kind of like a museum. I wanted them to get outside, right? And so I worked with Greg Hauser, who was on the contractor side of things, and Greg was great, and Greg and I worked together for years, and he said, yeah, let's get them out there. And so we suited them up in safety vests, hard hats, and these safety vests were down to their knees, and we tramped them out there, and Bertha, the TBM, was in this rescue shaft, which was 120 feet deep. We got those kids out there. They got right onto the diving board platform over the shaft, and to look down to see this in the eyes, the smiles were amazing. Kids, I still look back on those photographs, and the smiles are amazing. And then of course, the teacher forced them to make all thank you cards, and so I have a 3-ring binder of all the thank you notes, and they're wonderful to read. My daughter's now 18, and she's been driving through that tunnel for soccer practice, and her classmates, several of her classmates are choosing engineering as their career as they go into university. And so I always try to kind of focus on that and encourage kids to get into engineering or even into the trades. We really need that workforce. If you look at the global situation, right? The industrial countries here are decreasing in population size. Africa is just growing. So how are we, as Japan, Germany, Europe, the US, North America, with a decreasing population but a higher need, I think we really need to start reaching out and bringing that talent in. And that's hard to do. Someone was just sharing with me about a professor told them to always look in the peripheral vision. So don't necessarily have that tunnel focus on whatever your interest is. Keep your options open and find that passion and really listen, particularly as a young engineer or a young student. Just take it all in and find what really interests you.